In this video, you will learn how the external or dormakaba time clocks work while online. By the end of this video, you will be able to understand the flow of data from the external time clock to Workday, know the different buttons that can be selected at the clocks and what information is needed for each. The punch data entered at the clock is sent every minute to Workday. Worker data is sent 3 times a day from Workday to the external time clocks. Some examples of worker data include new hires, which are sent to the clocks at 1 a.m., 10 a.m., and 1 p.m., and terminated employees, which are sent once a day at 1 a.m. If a clock goes offline, then the punch data is not sent to Workday and is stored locally at the clock. Once the clock is back online, the punch data is sent to Workday. Employees should still use the clocks when they are offline. The main reason a clock might go offline is for weekly, monthly, or quarterly maintenance. This also includes any emergency maintenance. For more information on the clocks while they are in offline mode, review the External Time Clocks Offline Job Aid. There are 4 different employee populations configured for the external time clocks: students, intermittent, vehicle operators, and staff, which is considered the default. Depending on the employee population, different options are available on the time clock. In each box in parentheses, you can see what buttons are available to each employee group. As you can see on the slide, buttons vary by the combination of the employee group and external time clock being used. For example, student employees and intermittent employee types are unable to select comp time in lieu of overtime at the clock since they are not eligible for comp time. For an employee to have access to the external dormakaba time clocks, they must be assigned to the external time clock organization for their time entry method in Workday. The Administrative Resource Center has a job aid to help managers edit the time entry method in Workday if this is incorrect. The external time clocks are set up to be stateful. This means that as an employee uses the clock, it knows what buttons to display based on what has been previously entered. For instance, if an employee has already clocked in for the day, the next time they swipe at the clock, they will not see the clock in button. Instead, they will see options like meal start and clock out because the time clock system knows that employee is currently clocked in. Pictured in the middle, you can see the home screen. Employees will swipe their Buck ID or manually type their employee ID to start their shift. The picture at the top left of the screen with the house icon is the home button. This is displayed on every screen. An employee can push the home button at any time to be brought back to the home screen where they will need to swipe or type their employee ID again. To clock in, employees will select the button that says Clock In. The next screen will require the employee to verify the time type and position number they are clocking in for. Time type will default as regular. Staff can click the arrow in the box to select Callback as an alternative time type. Students do not have the time type option displayed on their screen because they are not eligible for callback. Their time type will always be the default regular. Employees will be able to select the position if applicable. The primary position in the costing allocation funding will be the default. Selecting the clock in will create a check-in on the employee's time calendar in Workday. Once an employee is clocked in, if they forget to clock out, they will not be presented the Clock In button for 18 hours. This is because the time clock system is stateful, as mentioned earlier, and still thinks the employee is clocked in. With the implementation of Workday, employees are required to clock out and back in for their meal breaks. To clock out for a meal, employees will swipe and then select the button that says Meal Start. This will send a checkout to Workday with a reason of meal and automatically matches the most recent check-in, creating a time block. To clock back in from a meal, employees will select the button that says Meal Stop. This will create a check-in in Workday. The check-in will automatically populate the information from the most recent clock in and start a new time block in Workday. For example, if an employee clocked in this morning on their non-primary position, when they return from their meal and select Meal Stop, that non-primary position will populate in the new check-in that is created. Once the employee selects Meal Start or Meal Stop, they will immediately receive a confirmation message. They do not have to select any additional options at the time clock. Next, we will talk about the transfer and clock out buttons. Employees will be able to transfer between time type, such as regular or callback, positions if they have multiple, and overrides if applicable. A transfer at the time clock creates a check out to end the previous time block and creates a check in with the new information within Workday, such as another position for the employee. To clock out, employees will select the button that says Clock Out. This will create a checkout that matches with the most recent check-in and creates a new time block in Workday. Employees will receive an immediate confirmation message of the selection. It is important for employees to select the Clock Out button at the end of the shift. The last two buttons available at the clocks are Comp Time and Cash Tips. The Comp Time button is available to all staff and vehicle operator users. Employees will select the Comp Time button to have their overtime for the week converted to Comp Time in Workday. They will need to only select this button weekly, and they can select it any time during the week. If the employee ends up not earning overtime that week, nothing is converted. Once the button is selected, employees will immediately receive a confirmation message and a Comp Time conversion time block will be created in Workday. To remove the Comp Time selection, employees will have to go to their Workday time calendar and delete the Comp Time selection on their time calendar. There is a job aid in the Administrative Resource Center to assist employees with this. The Cash Tips button is only available at select clocks and by job profile. When employees receive Cash Tips, they will select the Cash Tips button and enter the applicable position and amount. The amount must be entered twice for verification. Once the employee selects Submit, they will immediately see a confirmation message and a time block will be created on their time calendar in Workday with the Cash Tips amount. Employees can edit the Cash Tips submitted at the time clocks on their time calendar in Workday. As a manager, you may be asking, how do I know which clock my employee is using to clock in and out? The location of the clock will be sent in the comment section on each time block created in Workday Time Tracking. There will be a comment for both the check-in and check-out. Please note that the check-out comment is populated by the check-in information that it is matching to. Managers can run the time clock events and locations report in Workday to monitor the clock locations employees are using. This report is linked to the manager's time and absence dashboard, which they can access from the Workday homepage. Some other helpful information about the external time clock. For an employee to have access to the external time clocks, they must be assigned to the external time clock time entry method in Workday. Employees will have to wait a minute between the clock in and clock out options and the meal start and meal stop options. They will see an error message if they try to select these buttons within 1 minute of each other. 18 hours must pass before employees are presented the clock in button if they never clocked out. Employees and managers can edit time in Workday at any time. To monitor edits made by time clock employees, managers can run the Audit Time Edits by Clock Employee Results report in Workday. This concludes the external time clock design video. For more information or questions about the external dormakaba time clocks, please visit the Administrative Resource Center or contact HR Connection at hrconnection@osu.edu or 614-247-MyHR.